within the pentatonic scale, you have to know where the 1 is, or the root. So essentially, you know where the 1 is, right there. Okay? And there's what they call an octave, or where this is an E, your open E, and it repeats itself right here at the 12th fret. That's the octave, right? Okay, well, same thing happens down here. And do you hear those tones? And then, okay, it's impractical to play on one long string, so they double it up. Every 5th fret, essentially, they put another string so that it fits into your hand. That's why the pentatonic scale fits so nicely. Okay, instead of going up the neck. Okay, so there's a root here where we know where the 1 is. Now, if you come over here where the 5 is and then come down to one more string, you have another root right there. Okay, when you hear the jazz guys play octaves, that's what they're talking about. You have an octave right there. That's an E, and that's an E. And if you play them together, it sounds cool. Okay, so you also have, since this is an E string and that's an E string, you also have another root note, an A in this case, right there. So you have a root here, a root there, and a root there. Okay, so why is that important? When you're playing and you know you're on the 1, I know that I can, in its simplest form, I can begin a lick on my root note and know that whatever I play from there is going to be sort of cool. So in its simplest form. So if they're, I can play. Okay. So, or I can play. As long as I start on that root. Right? And if you're, you know, if you want to start on the center, on the octave 1 down here, you can slide into it. Okay, but it's just like the drive where you're leaving from, right? So, okay, it's just where you're starting from. Now, when the progression goes to the 4, on the 1, okay, now we're on the 4. Now you can do a couple of things. One, you can either come up here to D and play that pentatonic thing again, right? It'll fit. Or stay in your pentatonic box right here and go, if the progression itself is just moved to the 4, it's on the 1, right? So it moves over to the 4, then you can come over here to the 4 too. Start now come to the 2nd where your 4 is. That's now basically your root note when we're on the 4, right? Because we're going to play in the 4. In this case, it would be D. So, right? So all we've done is covered the 4 here. Okay. Now, if you remember right, remember our octave thing? Well, it works off the 2nd string as well. You have a D there, and then you also have the octave there. Okay. So when we're playing, when it goes to the 4, or you can come over here to whichever note you're going to start. If you're going to start on this one, you can do whatever. You can also start it on this one, but you could bend it. You can slide into it. Remember, that's the octave. And then when it goes back to 1, then, right? So be thinking about what you're going to be playing over. You could play it as simply as, if you're on the 1, play out of the 1, play out of A here, A pentatonic. It goes to the 4. You can slide up here. It goes back to the 1. Then when it goes to the 5, which is E, you could play. Then it goes to the D. Okay, so that's just chordally playing over the changes. So on the 1, you can play the pentatonic here. The D. Back to the 1. Goes back to the 4. You can play here again. D. Back to the 1. That's going to go to the 5, right? E. To the D. To the 1. Okay? The simplest form, that's kind of what we're doing. So, you got two choices there. You can either play over the chord. When you're in the 1, you're here in A, right? When it goes to the 4, slide down here to D, right? Remember where your roots are, right? Then when it goes back to the 1, drop back here, goes to the 5, go to the E, right? E, same pentatonic scale, right? Right? So that's jumping around playing. Now, if you look at a video of Stevie Ray playing, Stevie Ray stays put, dude. He's right here. He'll play. He'll basically play this pentatonic box and the Albert King box to death. He rarely jumps around like that unless he's doing the Kenny Burrell jazz thing. But for the most part, if he's just smoking through a blues and he's playing, you know, then it goes to the 4, he's just right there. Back to the 1. Then what he would do when it would go to the 5 is sometimes he'd do things like this. Or he would play something like this. But he's playing all that out of that A pentatonic box right there. Okay? So let's recap a little bit. 1, 4, 5, right? We know what that is. We know how to call it out. We know that it's movable. 12 bar, the variation on 12 bar, which is called the quick change. And all it is jump up to that 4 and then back in the second bar. Then the pentatonic box, the Albert King box, and then what to be thinking about as the progression moves along.